All right, guys, we're going to try to finish up chapter 12 and going to try this way on YouTube. I'm going to ask you guys to comment that you've watched the video. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to email me and ask those. So, the last thing we were talking about was Head Start program, mainstreaming, basically the idea of getting mentally challenged or retarded individuals into your regular classroom. We said that children from deprived environments that have been moved to upper or middle class environments tend to increase their IQ. The biggest test group that they used with this was foster kids that were maybe from a troubled home, and then they moved up to a different home and they were able to increase their IQ. Now, better school attendance tends to increase IQ. We are going to push this to the test in this pandemic. Anyway, let's talk about savants. This person usually has limited cognitive abilities but displays exceptional skill in a specific domain, such as like music, art, math, or dates. But the thing is when you're talking about the cognitive abilities here, what we're saying is that they might not be able to hold a conversation with people very well. They might have limited eye contact. They might blurt stuff out. They just might not, read the room. But they might be unbelievable in music, art, math, or dates. That's definitely one of those things that is pretty amazing about them. But again, we had said that limited social abilities as well. But if you're thinking of a movie, the movie Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise, his brother is a savant. And a lot of times these individuals can do counting very, very fast. In Vegas, people use them to count cards, believe it or not. But that is what a savant is. A prodigy is usually somebody with normal social ability, normal, whatever that word means, but is exceptional in a particular skill such as music, math, or sports. A lot of times you'll hear this with a child prodigy. It could have been like Beethoven. It could have been like Tiger Woods, Mozart, these people that were unbelievable even as children in the skill that they were working on. Gifted is a child with over an IQ over 130 and possesses special talents, creativity, and leadership ability. The guy that talked about this was Louis Terman. Louis Terman was the guy that basically said if you have an IQ over 130 and special talents, you are considered gifted. Now, I know that all of your grandparents are telling you that you're gifted and special. This is a little bit different. You have to have a proven IQ over 130. Next, as far as general intelligence, Charles Spearman, kind of a weird thing here, but he came up with a two-factor theory of intelligence. He had something called a general factor or G factor, or as he just called it, G, and he represents an individual's overall ability. As someone who has overall ability, they are able to be smart in academics, social things, all sorts of intelligence with them, but special abilities that are needed for certain types of tasks. Not everybody has special abilities. As far as Spearman, he said your cognitive ability can be measured and expressed numerically. So he did use a lot of numbers in his data. Basically said like smart people kind of tend to get a high score consistently on tests, and as a result, they have a high G factor, which would lead to a high S factor in certain abilities. Louis Thurstone, intelligence is not dependent on one general factor, but several primary mental abilities. What he did is he divided it into these 7 things right here: verbal, word, inductive, spatial. So verbal comprehension, just understanding what people are saying, what you're saying. Maybe somebody would be really good at English. Word or verbal fluency, understand that you understand what words mean. You are a wordsmith. Maybe you've heard that term before. Inductive reasoning, we've talked about inductive and deductive reasoning. This is a reasoning that takes from general to specific. And that would be somebody that would have that type of mental ability. Spatial visualization, I believe this is the first time we're talking about spatial visualization. This is your ability to picture where certain things go and be able to put them in order. Think of your dad packing the back of the moving truck or your minivan on vacation, and you're like, Dad, how did you cram all that stuff in there? That's spatial visualization. That is your ability to put things where they go and maximize space. And I was watching a Brain Games episode, and they actually had women struggled a little bit with this more than men. Not sure that that's 100% accurate, but in the test that they did, it did seem pretty accurate. Numbers or numerical computation. This is your ability to add, subtract, make numbers mean something. Memory recall, just be able to recall different things in your memory. Perceptual speed, perceive what's going on around you. How your mind is just being aware of what's going on around you. And that's what Louis Thurstone, he sent these 7 things there. Now, Raymond Cattell, we've already talked about his intelligence. We said crystallized intelligence, that is the intelligence that is like knowledge and facts, stuff that's already locked in solid in your brain. George Washington was the first president. Abraham Lincoln, Civil War. Christmas is on December 25th. Fluid intelligence would be more of intelligence that's kind of growing, analytical intelligence, new stuff, new information that you learn, stuff that would be applied, maybe a mathematical type thing. That would be fluid intelligence. J.P. Gulliford said there are over 100 separate measurable mental abilities. This is not a super popular one to study well because there's 100 different things, and not a lot of people wanted to mess with that. Why do I show you that? Well, mainly because understand that there's no general consensus with what everybody believes are these measurable intelligences, just because everybody can be smart in one particular area. I might be good in history, but somebody else might be good in English. Is that something that you measure? You're just good in English, you're just good in history, and that's why he had over 100 separate measurable mental abilities. Howard Gardner talked about mental intelligences. Again, or multiple intelligences, verbal, linguistic, basically, again, knowing words, reading words, understanding what words mean, logic, mathematical. Again, some of you guys are very, very good at logic and math. Some people aren't. Some people are wordsmiths and some people are math people. And so that can be part of that. Spatial, again, what's around you, packing a car or a moving truck. Musical, some of you guys have musical intelligences, multiple musical intelligences, and that's pretty cool. I do not have that, although I'm a very good whistler, but I do not have that. But musical, that is your understanding of how to write music, play the guitar, that type of thing. Body kinesthetic, that's how your body moves. Athletes a lot of times are considered very high intelligent with body kinesthetic. Think about Tiger Woods driving a golf ball for forever. Think about a baseball player hitting a home run, a pitcher throwing a 95-mile-per-hour fastball. Tiger Woods, again, like we said, hitting a golf ball. Michael Jordan shooting a basketball, figuring out the balance that he has to have in order to shoot a basketball. Those athletes are usually associated with body kinesthetic. Interpersonal relations. This is understanding the emotions and motivations of others in order to form positive relationships and work effectively with others. Now, interpersonal. What we're saying is you are reading what other people act like, how other people are feeling, and you're reading the room with them. So interpersonal is you and other people. Intra, letter G, is you and yourself. It's all about self-awareness. I would make sure you know the big differences between the two. Inter is with others. Intra is with you. And so anyway, it's including your own emotions, behaviors, and cognitions. This would be, if you have bad intrapersonal relations, that would be like you going to a funeral home and jumping all over the furniture and hooting and hollering. Interpersonal relations, what I would probably look at is say, okay, if you see somebody crying at a park and you kind of recognize them and you feel bad for them, you might want to go and see how they're doing. And so that's interpersonal. It's you being able as a boss to relate to your workers and understand them. Intra is, again, all about you. Naturalistic things deal with nature. That would be like going camping, hunting, those type of things, and knowing how medicine works, those type of things with naturalistic. Peter Salovey and John Mayer. This is not the John Mayer that is the artist, but this is John Mayer, the psychologist, and he talked about emotional intelligence. Him and Peter Salovey did. This is your ability to perceive, express, and understand emotions in oneself and others. So basically what you're looking at here is this is inter and intrapersonal relations mixed together. And they said emotionally intelligent individuals are capable of managing their own emotions and are better at expressing empathy. Now, empathy is your ability to feel exactly what other people are feeling. For example, I would not be able to be empathetic to somebody who just lost their dog because I have not lost a dog. Maisie's still alive, at least to the best of my knowledge. However, if I had lost a dog and somebody in our class lost a dog and I would say to them, I'm empathetic, I can understand where you're coming from, that's empathy. Sympathy is I just feel bad for you. And emotionally intelligent individuals are capable of managing their own emotions and are better expressing empathy towards others. Robert Sternberg was a multiple intelligence theorist, and he talked about the practical intelligence, the triarchic theory of intelligence, he said that people are smart in one of three different ways, or there are different levels, I guess, that you could be in this. But practical intelligence is realistic and useful thinking abilities that enable a person to cope with and thrive in the environment. Street smarts. This would be like your friend saying, hey, let's go down this dark alley in the middle of downtown Detroit at night. And you say, I just don't think that's very safe. You have practical intelligence. You have street smarts. You can kind of see what is a good thing to have, what isn't a good thing to do, just practical intelligence. Analytical is like the logical reasoning typically measured on IQ tests, book smarts. A lot of you guys are book smart. Some of you guys aren't practically smart. And then creative, this is problem solving required to generate new ideas and learn from experience. This is somebody that can solve problems regularly, and they are really good at that, and they can generate new ideas. This would be like an inventor. This would be like a musical artist. But again, it's not that you can't have all three, but a lot of times people are really good at practical but not analytical or not creative. It just balances. And then lastly, the Flynn effect. This is a new recent phenomenon stating that the average IQ has been rising dramatically over successive generations. Probably as a result of environmental factors. What we're saying is that for the most part, every generation is going to have a higher IQ than the previous generation. Part of that is because you guys just have more resources. Back in the day, your grandparents had to look up stuff on the encyclopedia. You guys can just ask Siri, or you guys can just Google things, and that makes it a little bit easier for you. And so the Flynn effect just basically says that the average IQ has been rising dramatically over successive generations and is making it a little bit easier for people to measure intelligence as well. And that nowadays your kids are probably going to have more intelligence than you will at your age. But think about the information that's at your fingertips right now on your phone. Your kids are probably going to have it even easier than that, which is hard to imagine. Anyway, I hope this helps, and we will be hopefully having a test over Chapter 12. I'm going to be using a Google form for that, and I'll have you guys, you can use your notes, you can use your textbook. But again, when you watch this, I need you to make a comment on the comment section that you have watched this and that you have watched this in its entirety. And that's pretty much how we're going to be doing this moving forward. If you have any questions, let me know.